What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Sugar, the podcast. Today, our guest is Danny Harvey. He is the tour manager and front of house for Beartooth. Super stoked for you guys to hear this conversation. The guy's super interesting. His story is really cool, and I think he hits on some really cool points on how he got to where he is and just overall how to kind of grow in the music industry. So I hope you enjoy it. Little disclaimer, at the 8-minute mark, we had to, for some reason, refresh the page on the recording software. So it did glitch, and it did not keep using the mic audio for the episode. So you hear my MacBook microphone versus my Blue Snowball. Didn't realize that happened until after the fact, but still a great conversation nonetheless. And we hope you enjoy. Cool. So we are live, not live, but we are recording. Yeah. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on.
Having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been following you for a little bit now. I'm a big fan of Beartooth.
Oh yeah.
So it was one of those like seeing what they're up to and who they're working with kind of thing. So it's been cool to see all the things that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been fun. Those guys are great. You I just had a look at your stuff too. You were just at Louder Than Life with Archetypes, right?
I was.
Oh yeah, which is managed by Oshi.
Yep,
and Tom.
And Tom. Yep. So I got to actually meet Tom and Oshi at Louder, which was really cool. Really, really dope people.
Yeah, they're great. Hell yeah. Was it fun?
And oh, absolutely. They crushed their set, which was great, and that was kind of the first big festival for me. I mean, I've done Warped Tour and stuff like that, and So What Fest, but Louder was really dope.
Yeah, it's definitely like, if you look out and you're like, holy crap, there's a lot of people there.
Oh yeah, and just watching the the last three, it was like Lamb of God, Shinedown, and Slipknot's crowds. I mean,
it's nuts.
Everyone was there.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like the whole country's there. Like it's just like as far as the eye can see, people.
Incredible, yeah. For sure. But Tom had great things to say about you. Okay. I told him that we were doing this today, and he was like, he's one of the sweetest people you ever meet.
Oh, well, I'm gonna ruin all of that this chat. No, I'm joking.
Awesome. So I don't really have an agenda. I don't like to really put an agenda together because I like to be as casual and genuine as possible. But what I do want to obviously know is how you got started doing what you're doing and ultimately getting to the point where you're working with Beartooth and doing tour managing in front of house and see where the conversation goes from there.
For sure. I guess it started when I made my own little recording studio in my back garden. So I was maybe 15. I guess I didn't do it on my own. I definitely had help from my dad and his friends and stuff that he met that wanted to like just help the local scene. So I live in Cornwall, which is in the middle of nowhere. So it's like right southwest of England, right on the tip. Not really much goes on. So like wanted to help what was there. So really got into recording music and doing that and started my own band down here. And then that led to going to university. So I went to university to do music production with the goal to be a studio guy. And then in Brighton, so I moved out of Cornwall, went to Brighton, and just met a bunch of people. Like I feel like that's the most I took from university. Not that I didn't learn anything, but I met a bunch of people because that's what it's all about. Yeah. It's networking and met them. And then when I finished, one of them was like, we're looking for a sound guy in a venue. And I was like, oh, live sound. I've never really dove into that, but how different could it be from a studio? Very different. But still like similar aspects. I was thinking I understood how audio worked and patching and what a compressor does and all that. So just did that. Different venues around Brighton, and then different bands came through. And then the one that came through that I was really looking forward to was a band called Set Your Goals. It's like a pop punk band from California, and got chatting to one of their crew guys who was actually moving to Brighton. So we kept in touch because he didn't know anyone in Brighton. And then he ended up moving in with me. A room opened up. And then he was like, do you want to go on tour? And I was like, absolutely. Like, never really thought about it. Never really thought that as an option or a job.
Right.
Went on tour for basically nothing because they couldn't afford anything, but they needed someone. I was like, I'll do that.
That's how it starts, right?
Absolutely. That tour was Every Time I Die, Cancer Bats, Set Your Goals, and Make, Do, Amend. And then from there, I actually ended up working for Cancer Bats and Every Time I Die on different tours. And then through Cancer Bats, I met Silverstein. And then some other bands in between. I Killed the Prom Queen I did a tour with, who I met some other people. It's just meeting people along the line.
Right.
And then Silverstein I was with for 6-7 years. And then through them, I met Beartooth. So Beartooth supported Silverstein in 2015. And then we did Warped in, I want to say that same year with them. And then in 17, and just got to know them. And then they were like, I think I had a gap opened up in touring and Beartooth were like, do you want to come and do a tour with us? And I was like, absolutely. And then from then, I never went back.
Yeah, man. And the theme of like what you just really explained was just be a good person and network.
Absolutely.
And
yeah,
you said it early on in what you were saying about just you met this person and at university, and then you met that person, and then they kind of connected you to this person, and then it's just you're building that network, and it's so important. And to
absolutely, as you said, being a good person, having that mindset as to help others too. Like I definitely wanted to help others on my way, and then the people respect that back as such, and they'll help you. And then like even back to that, like helping this guy move to Brighton, then he helped me with giving me a tour. Obviously, I never really thought about it like that, but yeah, it's the same. Yeah.
Yeah,
I always say too, you can be great at your job, but if you're not a good person, you're not gonna. So I like to think of myself as a good person, I guess. So, yeah,
absolutely. And what I love is that I feel is going to be a recurring theme in these interviews that I do this season, because I just interviewed Corbin Alve from We Came as Romans. He does the front of house for them and lighting design and all that stuff, or he does production for them. And we talked about that for a while. It's just don't be a person that people don't want to be around.
No, because that's what touring is honestly all about, because you live with this person, right? You're in a van, in a bus, in whatever, and if you're an asshole, no one wants to be around you, really.
And it's remembered forever, right?
Yeah, that's it. You leave an impression on someone. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
I think this scene, like We Came as Romans and all, like that metalcore, I don't know, punk scene, I don't know what you want to throw it. You know what I mean? The scene, it's full of so many nice people. I feel like that's what that scene is built on. Like I don't really, rarely, can't think of anyone that I've come across and be like, oh, how do they get here? Like it must filter or something, because there's got to be some filtered out at the early stages, maybe. I don't know.
Well, that's a really great point, because if you're not a great person, you won't make it that far. So where you're at, you've met all great people because they're probably great people, right?
I like to think so.
Yeah. And it was something that I thought was really cool. It's like, I've never met anybody in Beartooth, and this past weekend meeting Ashi, I was, it's more so like, be cool, man. For me, be cool, and it was just cool to just be like, he's a normal dude. Tom's a normal dude, and I'm a normal dude, right?
Yeah. And we're all like-minded people, right? If we're here doing this and this is what we want to do, so yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. And as far as just networking goes, that's what leads you to those opportunities to be in the place that you are now. But anyways,
so this podcast that you've done different kind of like themes and stuff. So this one you were saying is music, or was it all music, or?
Yeah, so we started out as a music podcast, your run of the mill, interviewing bands and stuff like that. And really, not that I don't enjoy that, but we took the summer off to think about how can we not revolutionize, but really just think differently about where we can go with it, and who doesn't get talked to enough and appreciated for the work they do behind the scenes. And that's the crew. That's everyone that makes live shows happen. And that was kind of just the idea behind it. And so there's a ton of people. The cruise, I just found out this past weekend that Slipknot's crew is like 100 people.
It's nuts.
Right? And if it wasn't for them, Slipknot would not be able to do what they do.
Yeah, the logistics behind a show like that is just absolutely crazy. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at that show, there's 9 people on stage, so you can imagine. Like,
and that's the thing. It's their production is insane. But if they didn't have the people there to actually help them put it together, design it, or whatever it may be, it wouldn't happen. And so I feel like people tend to forget that people like you and Corbin, who I interviewed, and everyone that does anything behind the scenes exist.
For sure, it's just this magical thing that suddenly gets set up. You watch the show, and then it shows up somewhere else the next day.
Yeah, like just at Louder this past weekend, it's like, you have Shinedown going on while they're setting up for Slipknot, right? But they have a big screen up, and no one can see what's happening, right? So
the 2 stages idea is great. Like, whoever did that first, such a great idea. Like,
absolutely, absolutely.
I'm on with music all day. Like a little break in music sometimes, it'd be like, refresh your ears and kind of get ready for.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's how can you be as efficient as possible in a huge fest like that with so many people not wanting to have a bad experience. So the setting up all the bands playing and then just basically flip-flopping the whole time is perfect.
What's that other When We Were Young fest that's happening soon? I think I've heard rumors that they've got one of those revolving stages. So like being under one tent or one canopy or whatever, but when the other band's setting up, they'll be behind setting up, and then the stage will revolve. And then it's nuts.
I've never even seen anything like that.
I've heard of him a couple of times. Like, I wonder if you could do like 3, because there's that. I wonder how that's going to work, because there's so many bands playing that festival.
So many great bands.
It's insane. When I saw, a lot of people did. They thought it was fake, didn't they? Like, well, look at this. Like, there's no way this is true. But
no, that'll be a fun one. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be there, but
I'm going to be there either.
Everyone that I know that is going is just super stoked. It's one of those, like, I wouldn't call it a Woodstock, but
I know what you mean, though. Absolutely, yeah.
That many names under one flyer it's
nuts. Yeah, I wonder if they'll do it again. Like, I wonder if it'll be a one-off, because then it'll be like, oh, do you remember that festival in 2022? Or it'll be happen every year. And
right, if it goes off without a hitch, I could see them thinking about it, but it's one of those. It's like, let's just pull it off and see what happens.
Exactly, yeah. And then getting that many bands every year, though, without too many people repeating, is
to fall on that same weekend.
Yeah, and it's
2 weekends too. So
because it's sold out instantly.
Right. I mean, that was a given, and I can understand why people would think it was fake.
Yeah, it looks insane.
No one's done that before with all those old and new.
That's it. Yeah. Like Paramore playing, right? They haven't played a show in a while.
Right.
You did Warped Tour too. What year did you do?
2017, I believe.
I think I was on 2017.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who was headlining and who I took those of.
Silverstein. Who else was on? Was it 17?
I know Amity was there.
I think Beartooth were on it. Or they were on some of it, maybe.
Possibly. I don't think Beartooth was there that year that I was there.
Who were you with? Were you working for a band, or?
I was just on the publication side, just covering photo and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it was the last cross country tour. That's the one. So whether 2017 or 2018.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, but
I've done two and a half. I think they all merge into one.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine being on the road for Warped Tour. I bet that was just like, I mean, they pulled it off. Lyman's a genius.
Of how many crews say Slipknot have, like the crew on like a Warped Tour, setting up all those stages every day, all those tents, or like the merch tents, or the sponsors, or that's pretty nuts. And to do it so early too.
And I don't want to say I'm surprised. Kevin Lyman did it very well, and everything that Warped Tour was. I don't blame him for shutting it down after however long, because man, every summer you're grinding for months, you know. So, but yeah, no, it's
happen, I would jump back at it in a heartbeat. I would do it again.
I love going to Warped Tour every summer. It was the highlight while I was in school of like, I know this is happening and I can look forward to it.
Sure,
you know?
Yeah. See, I never had that here, like obviously being from the UK. So when I went for the first time, it was when I was doing it. So I was just like, what the hell is happening? Like, I knew of this festival when I was a kid, when I was in school, and I was like, not a chance that I'm ever going to go to that. Right. And then,
that was one of the 50 plus bands. Yeah.
Yeah. Insane. Honestly, I hated my first one, though. I think it's because I had these great expectations of it being like this thing that I've known about for years since I was at school. I'd be like, oh, yeah, finally going to do it. I hated it.
What did you hate about it?
Now thinking back, I don't know. I think it's long days.
Mm-hmm.
It's hot, obviously. It's outside. Yeah. You have no idea when you're going to play. Like, it's kind of very chaotic. Mm-hmm. But then the second time I did it, I loved it, and it didn't change. So I don't know. I don't know why, to be honest. Maybe I think I went in with these great expectations, and it didn't live up to it. And then the second one, I had no expectations.
Right, because you're like, all right, I know what this is about to be about, and you can kind of prep for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I mean, I can only imagine the logistics behind, just running all the sound, audio for however many bands all day. I bet their crews were so tired.
Stage has their own sound crew, their own crew and everything, right? They set the stage, but yeah. I remember the first year I did it. Maybe that's got something to do with it. The stage we were on was analog.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a 15-minute changeover, and the console that I was on was different every day that I got to it. Mm-hmm. So nothing was like the same. I had to change, line check, everything. And then the second time we did, we were on one of the monster stages that were the two next to each other. So you had a longer changeover while the other band was playing, and a digital console that I could load a file on.
Right.
So maybe that made it a lot easier and a lot more controlled and had a lot more fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think yeah. And I think that's a great segue into what you do and how you make the magic happen behind the soundboard. And so again, part of what I want to do with these series of episodes is have it also be like a learning and teaching moment for people that are interested in doing what you're doing. And I love that we started out with how you really got to where you are, but now I want to know what it is that you do, and maybe the highs, the lows, the very difficult things, the things that you've had some oh shit moments, I'm sure, and kind of go from there. So obviously you do front of house sound, and tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I guess it's hard to just jump in. So yeah, front of house is the sound that the crowd hear, and then there's monitors, which is what the band hear. So that's like your two different audio roles on tour, I guess. And so my day started in a way once the equipment is set up, I mic it up, or if it's a DI or something. So there's a lot of bands use Kempers or Axe effects now, so plug everything in so it reaches my console. And then obviously that's a patch too, so making sure everything lines up with where I want it to be. And then on both ends of the snake as such, so monitors and front of house, and then use those lines to make it louder. Explain it, but obviously there's lots of steps in between. I have my way that I route things through my console, and there's different compressors and EQs and gates and groups and stuff that I use. And then monitors. So Beartooth is a little different in the way they do it, because Caleb, the singer, is very involved in audio. So he mixes the records, he's all that. So he knows his way around audio. So he does monitors. So normally on a gig kind of this size, you'd have a monitor engineer that would do monitors. But yeah, Caleb does it. So I patch everything in. Caleb runs the monitors and I do front of house. So it's nice in that way to have someone to do it, because I've definitely done bands before too, and monitors are done from front of house, on a smaller scale, which is harder because you want it. EQ things differently to not feedback or to hear how you want to hear it. And then the struggles, I guess, that I find doing front of house is you're just fighting the room. So if I've got my mix kind of sorted, especially if you're traveling with the same console and I'm bringing up my same mix every day, my difference every day is where we are. So like I ring out and I try and make a certain song. So I have 2 songs that I use and I make that song sound the same in that room. And then when the band plays, my mix would still be the same as that song, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. I just recently learned, like I say learned, but yesterday, the Architects guys were just like, shooting the shit, and they were saying that when they did sound check, or Amity's front of house did sound check, he played the same song every single time, and basically blast it so that he can understand like what can the system actually handle.
Yeah, I different engineers. The reason I play the same song is I want to hear what the room sounds like. Like I know what that song sounds like, and I know what I want it to sound like. So if I play it really loud, I can take things out of the PA to make it sound the same in that room that it did in the room yesterday or in the room before, or through those speakers, because obviously different speakers and different PA sounds different,
right?
As well as the room sounding different. So if I make that song sound the same, then my mix of the band will sound the same.
Right. No, I get that.
So I take it's called ringing out the PA. So I would take out different frequencies of the, and then certain rooms are easier than others. Like a big arena is bouncy as hell, like especially with no one in it. There's a classic thing. Oh, it would change the bodies in the room. Like as many times, if I had £1 or $1 for every time I've had that saying, I wouldn't be in my garden shed right now.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah, and then a smaller room. Like we actually on the end of the last Beartooth tour, we did a bunch of like underplay shows, which was super fun but challenging in their own way to like fight with that smaller room. Like we came off like a Day to Remember tour. We were playing like mainly outdoors and like not really a room to fight with, and then coming to this tiny little basement or whatever, and I'm fighting with Connor's cymbals, like fighting with guitar sound coming on stage. But when you're outside, like his cymbals I can't even hear from front of house. Do you know what I mean?
It just projects. It's not bouncing off anything.
Exactly. And then in this little basement, I'm like, oh, I wish I could turn those cymbals down, but obviously you can't.
Right.
So yeah, that's the and to learn how to. You said that how would one learn how to, and like I learned so much by doing. Like when I went on my first tour with Sacred Gods, as we talk about, I remember like so scared, terrified. But I learned probably so much on that first tour, probably more than I ever have. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like you have to figure it out. You were thrown fully in the deep end. And it's also that I guess this is the segment to talk about something else that I started during lockdown with something called Sonic Workshops. So bored, wanting something to do, me and a friend George kind of like, he works for a university and he like teaches people. And we were like, how can we take this further? Like I wrote a couple of courses for this university. So we opened up a mentoring website, which is what Sonic Workshops is. You can sign up and you can have like a one-on-one chat with anyone. There's like 30 different mentors about what you want to learn. So you could come and talk to me about tour management or front of house. You can come talk about lights or guitar tech or whatever. So that's a good way to learn. And that's how I kind of occupied lockdown doing that.
That's cool. You know what? I think I saw that, and I totally forgot that was something that you guys did. That's really cool.
Yeah, it worked really well during lockdown because a lot of touring people had time to kill. They had their schedules were wide open and people were booking in, and it got really busy. But then as soon as touring started again, everyone was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm too busy. I can't put aside an hour or 2 hours a week to do it, which is obviously fair enough. And I can't keep up with it either, like the admin side of it. It was really quite tricky to keep it all balanced. But
at least you like you saw like a niche that during lockdown. I mean, I literally remember just going outside with my camera because you couldn't go anywhere, right? And just walking and taking photos of things because that's all I had to do.
Yeah,
you
just
know?
get away from what we're dealing with. Do you know what I mean? Like take yourself away from everything, which is creativity, right? Like taking photos or helping someone else, or but
Hmm.
yeah,
So,
if anyone wants to learn to do front of house, you can come to there and we can talk about it more in depth.
is that something that y'all are going to, obviously everyone got busy again. It was like, I can't do all that, but do you guys see that being something that you continue to slowly kind of ease back
Yeah,
into
like
the?
I actually had a session yesterday with someone. And when I'm home from tour, I put times up on the website that people can book in, and then other people do as well. And it kind of we're getting different people interested in it. Um, and then some universities have come to us and be like, "Can you mentor some of our students about different things?" Which is really cool. So yeah, what I ideally wanted to do with it is bring it on the road. So
Mhm.
like, say if limit it to two people, even one person wants to come out to a sound check, and I can teach them there and then in a real life situation. Like this is the sound check, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it. But it's so hard to find that time on a schedule that you're like, you got to finish sound check in 10 minutes, or you got and
Right.
like I can't talk to someone or teach someone kind of in that. So we'll see what happens with it. I can't want to do it, but
Yeah. Well, being able to jump on, a thing like this and just chat for a little bit is, thankful for technology and the internet, right?
exactly, yeah, absolutely. Which
Yeah.
is nuts if you think about it. We're talking where do you live? Where you're in?
I'm right outside of Dallas.
Okay, yeah. And then me being in England and we're chatting over the internet. What a crazy world.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And when we first started the podcast, it was during lockdown. We actually started Coffee and Sugar July of 2020 because we were bored, and
That's it. Yeah.
and here we are now, right? It's kind of cool to just see that progression and just kind of
Yeah.
sticking with something and seeing where it
I
goes.
wonder if
But
companies or podcasts or things like that started during the pandemic.
oh,
Probably like I
so
don't know.
many.
Stuff stuck around though.
Yeah,
When
that,
people up again.
I think anyone that had a computer and maybe $100 to spare for a mic probably started a podcast.
Podcast.
And I was like, dang, well, we're not anything different. And I mean, the amount of music
Still
podcasts
going.
out there,
Not many of them are still going.
hey, and that's something that we're happy about is, every time we hit a lull, it was like, okay, we have to bounce back somehow. What are we going to do that's different? And
Exactly.
that's kind of the ebbs and the flows of starting something. But
Yeah, I mean that's the same thing with with Sonic Workshops when we kind of ran out of our momentum at the beginning. Like, what else can we do to push this a little bit more to try and initiate that engagement again?
hmm and the thing I love about just the podcast in general is like the networking and getting to know people
Yeah,
and what people are doing around the world. Like our first international interview was a guy named Steph G. He's like a rock EDM dubstep artist out of Italy.
yeah,
Just
oh yeah.
connected with them via Instagram, and then there we are just chatting. And he's in Italy, and I'm here, and like this is really cool. So now I know someone in Italy.
Oh yeah, yeah. Have you ever been over to Europe?
I haven't. I've not actually been out of the U.S. I keep telling myself I need to get a passport because I feel like at some point it has to happen. And
Yeah,
so,
you gotta. Like
yeah,
Canada. I mean, you guys are Canada, Mexico are so close. Especially if you're in Dallas, Mexico's not.
yeah, it's right there.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I don't know, haven't gotten around to making something like that happen, but it's definitely the goal. I want to see Iceland
oh
and
yeah,
the Nordic countries. I know are beautiful, like but landscape photos and stuff like that.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
all about
Everything
it.
I've ever seen of Iceland, I've been like, holy, like
Hmm.
I've had a layover there, so I've flown in, and I'm like trying to look out the window to see something.
Yeah, no, it's definitely everything I've heard about is a great experience. So it's the goal. I mean, if my friends and archetypes keep doing really cool things and growing, then maybe I'll end up over there with them. Who
Yeah,
knows?
they seem like
Yeah,
they're doing well.
those guys are my favorite. I've known the lead singer for 12 years. I watched the band start, and just I think I was their number one fan for the longest time. Maybe still am, who knows? But
How did you
they
know? Because they're from Phoenix, right?
mhm. So my mom lives out in Phoenix.
There
So
you go.
I actually met Kyle, the lead singer, at church in like the youth group when I would go out there during the summers, and then we just stayed connected. They became some of my best friends, and then we just kind of had a group out there, and then they started a band.
That's it. I mean, that's a great story right there of how you got into it. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I like
No,
that.
it's cool to think about because you never know what's going to happen. You can't predict anything, right?
No.
So if I had, I don't know, who knows? If I had not stayed connected with them, I wouldn't be doing the things with them that I'm doing now, right?
Yeah.
It's just that one relationship.
What do they call it? Butterfly effect? Like a butterfly flaps his wings in one side of the world, and there's a hurricane in the other. Like, I can't remember the saying off the top of my head, but that same kind of thought, isn't it? If you didn't go to that one church or you didn't keep in contact, then you wouldn't have done that thing years and years later. Like, it's nuts.
Yeah, it's super cool to look back and be like, hey, I kind of put the pieces together and wasn't a shit person, right? Just
There you go.
be a good person, and it'll take you a long way, and you understand that. Uh, it's been cool, and it's been great to watch them go from the first music they ever put out to they signed to Fearless Records this year, and
And
being
just,
managed by
which is huge.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Tom and Ashi being their manager is such a great match for them. It's like things fell into place for them too, and it's been really cool to kind of watch it all happen on my end, you know.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
And so yeah, they're great. Ideally, looking at my first month-long tour with them uh, sometime soon, hopefully. So we'll see.
Nice. Did you do that Amity tour that they did?
I I did the Texas dates with them,
Nice. Yeah.
so hopefully, I say hopefully, but yeah, that was really cool. I'd never really seen what tour life was like, so it was an experience.
Yeah, it's not as glamorous as it may seem.
Yeah, yeah, and I think to the average person, they think that it's just a huge party, and really, it's just like chilling in a van. And
What's that classic picture? Is it what people think backstage looks like? Party, everyone drinking. What it actually is, everyone sat there on their phone in a dingy old graffitied room with no windows.
hmm yeah,
Pretty real.
right. It's that's that. I think Will Ramos of Lorna Shore posted a TikTok or something of what people think we do in the green room versus what we do, and they're like back there watching like TV and just chilling on their
Like
phones,
just not talking.
not doing anything. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
pretty much.
It's a perspective that people don't fully see, and you know it's not like you're right. It's nothing as glamorous as
Yeah.
people
I
think.
mean, it's like, even like when I go and talk to like my granddad or whatever about what I do, I'm sure I can see his face go into, it's just all pie and drugs and rock and roll, isn't it? I'm like, you really not. Like, I work very hard.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of hard work. I had this question in my mind that I mentioned earlier, but what's a oh shit moment that you've had
Oh, yeah.
while on tour?
Is it, oh shit, I'm here, or oh shit, what do I do?
Oh shit, what do I do?
Uh, um, trying to think. So the first one that comes to my mind, it wasn't actually that, but so Beartooth just did their big hometown Columbus show, and during changeover, something, I can't remember what it was. Something happened, something to do with Connor's ears, like what they weren't working or one ear wasn't working, and something they couldn't figure it out on stage, whatever. So I ran from front of house to stage, which is quite a way in that like this big outdoor kind of amphitheater. We had like 10 minutes left of changeover, and on my way, I'm like, oh god, like what the hell? What could it be? Like we have no replacements or whatever. I get there and they fixed it, so I literally got there, turned around, and came back again. But that run to it, like it was hot. I was stripping, like just sweating. So that's definitely been oh shit moment in that. There's been another.
Well, I mean, the things that go through your mind when you're like, okay, what's going on? What's going on while you're running, sweating?
Yeah,
and
like,
then
what would it be? Like, do I need another cable? Am I going to put him on ears because he's hardwired in? And like, I know he doesn't want to go on ears, but it is a possibility. No, it's not. It's what do I need? Like, just like there's one show that actually was the last show on the Day to Remember tour. Something was happening with the guitars, and on a support tour, obviously, you want to start on time and finish on time because the other band depend on you finishing on time for them to start. So it's kind of strict. And it came to like, we're 2 minutes late and they've just figured out what was wrong with the guitars, but I hadn't heard them. So I don't know what they sound like. I don't know if they're coming up in the right channel, but we were like, we've got to go. And I was just like, here we go. I hope they work. So that was, but they did, and it was fine. So
yeah. I feel like things have a way of just like working themselves out, right? The show must go on kind of mentality.
We've gone pretty late for things. I can't remember off the top of my head the worst thing that's happened. I've told this story a few times. I remember my first ever show on tour with Set Your Goals. I was so scared. It was like a huge, like, I think it was like 10,000 kind of arena, Parkway Drive we're headlining. We were like opening this festival at like 2:00, but it was packed. I didn't go on stage the whole changeover because I was nervous. I wanted to like sit at the console, and I hadn't been on this console before, like figure it out. And they started, and the mic was on the wrong cab. So that was a big like, literally, oh shit. Like,
wait, when you say on the like, as in like, oh.
So like they had a double stack, and the mic was on the top cab, and they were coming out the bottom.
Need to be on the bottom. Oh,
yeah. So it took like only like a song or two, but my first show, I'm like,
why can I not hear anything? And I'm up in it.
Yeah, like literally, I think I was gaining it so hard, and I was like, why is it this late? And then I think I looked up, and like, I bet it's on the wrong cab.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, I think the cool thing about, I say the cool thing, maybe that's not the right way to say it, but the thing about like when those things happen, it's like the fans I don't think they really notice that.
Yeah.
You know, obviously you do, and you're like, oh shit, but they don't, you know?
No, absolutely. We actually had I can't remember where it came from, but we had like a number system of that. So there's like a mistake number 1 is like, nobody else knows. Not even another band member, not even another crew member. Like, you've done something that only you know. Number 2 is and the other band know, but no one in the crowd knows. And then a number 3 is like everybody knows.
Yeah,
the whole crowd knows something's gone wrong. Like, so you're like, I had a couple of number 2s tonight, like, or just the number 1 tonight. Nobody else knew. So
just keep like a tally mark of like days since last.
Yeah.
No, and I think I think Corbin and I talked about just like the same kind of concept. It's like he may notice something that's like happening on stage. They're like, yep, that's not supposed to be there. But the average person, they're like, this is fantastic. They have no idea. And
also every mistake I've learned from. Do you know what I mean? Like that first show that I didn't mic the right cab up, or I didn't even go on stage to mic the cab up. From then on, I never didn't go on stage during the changeover, and I checked that cab every single time. You know what I mean? Like, you learn from those mistakes, and I feel like that's how you improve and you get better at everything, right? And if you don't make mistakes, how the hell are you going to improve in a way? So it's just a natural passage to make those moments and then fix them.
Right. So the first festival that I ever shot was So What Fest in 2016. It was just one of those, like, got a crazy opportunity, and I just went with it.
Was that the one in the baseball stadium?
No, that was the one in 2016 was when it was in, like, Deep Ellum, which, like kind of outskirts of downtown Dallas at multiple different venues. And then the following spring was in the baseball stadium. Yeah. And man, I look back at that experience and I'm like, man, there's so many things I did that I was like, probably shouldn't have done that, as far as like operating the camera, that was the wrong move, or that was the wrong composition, or that was wrong, whatever it was. And
Yeah. Now you've learned, right? And now you look back
yeah,
and you'll never do that, or you'll always do that, or you know what I mean, right? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. It's you're absolutely right. It's one of those. If you're not learning from your mistakes, then you're not growing, and you're not getting
Yeah.
better at your craft or whatever it may be. I don't think I asked, but how long has it been since you first started doing audio?
My first tour was 2012, so 10
Mhm.
years, and then I went to university when I was 18, so 2008.
Mhm.
I'm old, so so like I guess 10 years touring and maybe like 14 years doing audio. I guess, and then before that, I had my little studio at home when I was like 15.
Right.
So
This was
15,
something I was talking about with the Archetypes guys. Is that they've been a band since 2014. I've been taking photos since I was in high school. And it takes a lot of time. I think the point is like it takes a lot of time to get to a level where it's like, yeah, you can say you're good at this, right? Like you know what you're doing, or it is. I feel
I'm
like so. Do I?
still learning.
Yeah, exactly. You're always learning for sure,
Yeah,
but I feel like a lot of people don't take the time to like
for sure.
really look at where you are and where you kind of want to be and how to get there and how long that takes.
Yeah,
That's a
it takes patience for sure. Like you gotta sit with it. And like I've heard bands and spoken to bands that are like been a band for 2 years and be like, why aren't we playing to 500 people yet? I was like, you got a long time to go yet. You got to grow. You
mhm,
got to like. It takes time to grow a fan base. It takes time to grow your network. That's what it is, isn't it? As a crew person, as anyone, as a band, it is all growing that network. Whether that being network to give you a job or network as fans, like it's still
mhm.
a network.
Yeah, and because you're familiar with Beartooth, I'll use them as an example. It's when Attack Attack ended in 2014, and then Caleb went to start Beartooth. I mean, that was 2014. That was 8 years ago.
Yeah, and he had a kickstart, obviously being in a different band that were very
Right.
successful. But
But just in the last year or two, they've just been crushing it. They've been, you know, big shows, touring with the Day to Remember, and it's people. I feel like younger bands will get that. It's like I want to be there, but I don't want to take 8 years. I don't want it to take 10 years or whatever it may be, and that's. I feel like people lose sight of really how long it takes to.
yeah, like it's an investment in time and obviously money as well because it's not cheap to tour and not make money. Like to
Yeah.
do like DIY tours, but you've got to. Like I
Hmm.
even Beartooth, I know that they went out like a house party tour. They always talk about this. And it was in 2014 or 15 where they just played like house shows. Like
Hmm.
you got to
Yeah.
just get out there and do it and play shows and
I, I've been able to watch since really Coffee and Sugar started and we started the podcast and interviewing some bands that are, unsigned. They're doing everything DIY. They are, some recording just their own music in their living room with comforters on the wall so the sound doesn't bounce.
oh,
And it's that grind that is so important. It's like if you care about it, like invest in it, invest your time, your money, and everything, and you'll eventually be ideally where you want. But there's a number of bands that I've been able to watch just in the last 2 years go from really just being a local band to playing So What Fest. Everyone, I'm sure has some eyes on Bill Murray, right? Obviously, Johnny being in Attack Attack and then starting his side projects and being able to just watch Bill Murray literally grassroots kind of just build his fan base very organically. Like that organic growth is super important for
absolutely. Yeah.
for anything, whether it's people that like your photography or people that just like your music. It's I don't know. People
Yeah. That's where you
people
get your
lose.
rich from, isn't it? Like you're doing it organically is yeah.
Mhm. That's been cool to watch other artists and creatives just grow because they're putting in time and money into their craft.
Yeah, and it does take a
Yeah.
lot of time and a lot of money, as you were saying. Like, it's
Mhm.
not. You have to be patient with it. You've got to. It's hard. Like,
Mhm.
I remember, like, there's different, like, being like in I don't know 2013 or whatever. Talking on a crew perspective, obviously not a band perspective. Getting a certain amount of money a day or a certain amount of money per week, being like, hell yeah, I am so stoked on this. And now looking back at it, go, I couldn't afford to get that anymore. Like,
Right.
it's like bands are the same. Oh yeah, like happy. Like I don't need anything more to play to 100 people a night. And now they're playing maybe 1,000 people, 2,000 people in the night. And they're like, oh, I can't even imagine that. Like, what the hell? Look how far we've gone. Like,
Yeah. A thought that came to mind is, I asked Corbin in the last interview, where does he want to see himself? And he said that he wants to be doing production for Doja Cat. And I was like, did not expect that. That's dope. And I hope you get there. So I'm going to pass the question to you. Where do you want to see yourself?
Like, I don't know if I could pick a band that I'd like to see myself working for.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because in a way, I've said this too, like, not that I love Beartooth stuff, but I never want to work for a band that I'm a huge fan of before, if that makes sense. Because whether that would ruin it for me or I want to keep them where they are, I don't know. Like,
yeah. Well, okay. Let's flip the question a little bit. Maybe it's not a band, but you mentioned we're always learning. We're always teaching ourselves new things. There's, maybe there's a skill level you want to be at. Maybe there's an echelon of being a front of house person that you want to see yourself in.
I mean, I guess doing like a band that's doing stadiums would be insane. Like as a huge end goal to be like, whether that is Beartooth, they keep growing and they get to a stage that they're playing stadiums, then hell yeah. Like do it with my friends, you know what I mean? In a grander schemes and a more real thing, I have a little kid right now. He was 8 months old, so I don't want to tour forever. So to look into the future even further, to be like I manage a couple of bands too. I manage 4 bands. Either grow them or get in another band that grows, and then end up managing a band that still keeps me in the music scene and music world, but not so much on the road, so I can stay at home more. I guess that's like a huge. But I don't know. I don't know what the time frame on that is. Like, I'm not ready to stop touring yet. I still love it. I still enjoy it.
Yeah. No, I get that for sure. I feel like, it's just the experiences in themselves are what's super important. It's just getting those experiences and enjoying doing it. And that's kind of where I'm at with what I'm doing. I'm assuming that's where you're at with you're doing. It's just enjoying the time that you get to go do those really cool things.
Exactly. Yeah. There's still moments that, as I said, I've been doing it for 10 years. There's still times that I go, holy, like go back to what I said. Do you mean, oh shit, something went wrong, or oh shit, I'm here? I still have so many of those, oh shit, I'm here moments. Like,
right.
I remember Beartooth did Incarceration Fest. It was like in a stadium, and we were like mid-afternoon, and I was like, holy shit, we're playing a stadium. I'm mixing inside a stadium right now. This is nuts.
Yeah.
And Australia, I've been 2-3 times now. Every time I'm there, like when we play Sydney or something, I'm like, holy shit, like I'm on the other side of the world right now and mixing a band in Sydney. This is insane. Like, there's definitely many oh shit moments like that I've had. Like,
I definitely I feel that in the moment I may not recognize it as an oh shit moment, but thinking back to it, it's like, oh shit, I was just running around on stage at Louder Than Life taking photos of some of my best friends playing music to one of the biggest crowds they've ever played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It moment you're just so focused on what you're doing, and you're so like, you look back, or you look at some of those pictures and you're like, did I take that? Look at, like, that's nuts.
Yeah. It took me a whole 6 hours to finish out all of those photos. And after going back and then looking through them all, I'm like, guys, you just played to so many people. Like, that's huge. And it gets me excited just for them, right? And I'm sure you feel the same for all the artists and bands that you work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, especially that the recent Columbus hometown show that Tooth did was insane. Like, fireworks off the top of the stage, pyro everywhere. Like, that was like, guys, you just did this. This is insane. Like, yeah.
Yep. And then they walk off stage and like, all right, what's the next thing?
Exactly. Yeah. They definitely have that drive, that motivation, which is what you need for the whole, no matter how big you are. If you're playing to 50 people, if you just started, if you've just come off a stadium, you always need that drive to look for the next thing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're coming up on an hour, and I want to respect your time because I know it's getting later there. I want to close this out with really two questions. One, is there anything that you want people to know about you or about what you do, or any sort of advice or tips or anything that we can close this out with?
I mean, advice and tips is how we started this thing. Be a nice person, be a good person. And I really do think, like, I know you said it first, but I've said that before many times and I stick by it. Like, it really does get you further than you think.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
Something about me, I don't know. Hopefully this has told you enough about me. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right. And then the last question before we go is, one, are you a coffee drinker?
I am.
Okay. And how do you like your coffee?
Iced. Cold brew. Well, just black, iced.
All right.
Yeah.
Simple.
No milk. Sometimes hot, to be honest. I had a pour over yesterday and it was very tasty. But I still cold brew. Even in the winter. Like, it doesn't get that cold where I am. Like, doesn't get like snow, doesn't really get below freezing. Like, so yeah.
There we go.
I'll stick to a cold brew.
Awesome. So we're going to close this out. I do want to let you know before you hop off, we are recording from local machines. So if you can keep your browser open while the upload finishes, that would be appreciated, because I do not want to lose this audio or the video. So we'll close it out. Danny, thank you so much. I've enjoyed this. I hope you have, and I'm excited to give people an insight into what you do and what, kind of tour managing and front of house looks like. I know we didn't touch much on tour managing, but I feel like kind of goes hand in hand and just working with the bands and making sure they got everything that they need to be successful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Danny.
Yeah. Hope it was okay. And
yeah, I had a blast.
Hey, me too. That's all that matters.
Yep, absolutely. Well, hey, thank you, sir. And you have a great rest of your evening, and be on the lookout for when this goes live.
Will do. Absolutely. Thanks, dude.
Later, man.